Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tuesdays with Tally. This is episode 23, and I'm your host, Brian Tally. The mission and the goal of this podcast is to bring an engaging conversation that will add value to the lives of everyday people. We will inspire, encourage, educate, and tell the stories of some of America's finest men and women in an effort to motivate you to live your life to its fullest potential. Be sure to follow us on social media and on Spotify. The online information and handles are all located on the scrolling ticker at the bottom portion of your screen. Be sure to like and share the program as well. You can also support the program by going to Anchor FM or Spotify and clicking the support button. Also, become a program sponsor today. Where are my business owners at? Get your gear, products, merchandise, or services out to the general public. Program sponsorships include a custom written script to advertise your business to its fullest potential to get the results you're looking for. To learn more, email me today at thetallybill@gmail.com. That's thetallybill@gmail.com. Folks, we have a very special guest joining us on today's program. Chris Brahs is an Air Force veteran and served as a combat rescue crew chief in security forces. In 2018, Chris became the president of Outlaw Desert Racing, which is a 501c3 nonprofit that brings healing and outdoor activities to veterans and first responders that suffer from post-traumatic stress. The goal behind Outlaw Desert Racing was to bring something new and exciting to the forefront and offer off-roading as a healing tool. Chris imagined that the vast majority of our military heroes are adrenaline junkies in some way or another, and he envisioned supplying that adrenaline, but in healthy doses. Their adrenaline therapy program takes military and first responders out into the desert and takes them for a ride in an off-road race vehicle. Pending the veterans' comfort level, they will range from 75 to nearly 100 miles per hour across the open desert. Recently, they even added drag racing to the program. With that, we are honored to be joined by Chris Brahs. Chris, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Brian. How are you?
I'm hanging in there, man. I'm hanging in there. We just had a big old thunderstorm blow over our house here, and it was lightning and thundering and all that stuff. So we had to wait a little bit before we got fired back up here. But, man, all is well now.
Right on. Yeah, it's been cloudy here, and yesterday it rained. I looked outside and it was a torrential downpour, standing water in my backyard. 10 minutes later, it was stopped raining and took a while to dry up. But we've been getting some rain here in West Texas as well.
Yes, and I am in East Texas, and yes, it's been a blessing. The rain has come back about 2 weeks ago, and it has not left yet, which we do like the rain around here. It just greens everything up, and we had a very dry August, so it definitely feels good to get that rain in.
Yeah, you guys say dry August, but I bet you it was still really humid.
Oh yeah,
it's a dry heat over on this side.
yeah, it was definitely humid and it was hot, but it is what it is. I guess you got to roll with the punches, right?
Yeah, my German Shepherd Poncho, one of the two German Shepherds that I've got, decided that he's going to be part of the podcast today and keeps bugging me that he doesn't want me to stop petting him.
Poncho, I like it. I like it.
He's
what's up, Poncho?
All right. They'll be 2 years old in December. I got two of them.
Awesome.
Yep, it's my babies.
Yeah, I love my animals too. My dogs, and I even got a cat.
Yeah, we got one of them too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love my dogs. I've had a black lab. I think I want to say he's got to be 13. I mean, he's getting old. And he's been with me the whole way, man. That's a great dog. And then I got two little guys, little pug and a little wiener dog. And those, I just love my dogs. They just bring me so much joy for sure.
Yeah. These, I went to the end of July. I went up to Idaho to surprise my mom and dad for their 50th wedding anniversary. And when I was packing stuff up, these two knew that we were going somewhere. And all I got to do is mention the T word for the vehicle because if I say it, he'll go nuts. And they're at the front door, and we put on 5,000 miles in just over 3 weeks. And troopers, they love riding
and they're good travelers
in the truck. Yeah, they're awesome travelers. I put their beds in the back. We got some memory foam mattresses that I put in the bed or in the back seat area. It's a 4-door pickup, and lay the seats down and make a big old bed. And Coco, the female, she'll be watching outside, watching vehicles and people, or they're upside down, sleeping, snoring, or playing. Yeah, they ride really well.
Man, that is awesome. That is awesome. I was thinking about maybe a little icebreaker before we get started here. And I was trying to think, man, what can I do with Chris? And I'm like, boom, I got it. So I got to know you a little bit back when the tally bill was, when we were in the trenches with Congress and all this. And during COVID, I went on a road show. I went on a road trip. When everybody was getting up and going inside, I got up and I went outside, and I hit 7 states in 6 days and hit every congressional district that was in my way. And I'm rolling through Albuquerque, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to call Chris, because at the time you were living in Albuquerque, and the only thing that was open was at Chili's. So you and I got to hang out at Chili's and go to Denver, and go to dinner at the height of COVID.
Yeah. Yep. And then you called me up because you had a flat tire in your car the next morning. Got a nail.
Oh yeah. And I'm like, hey man, look, that was God definitely looking out for me right there, because I could have gotten that flat tire anywhere on the trip. Yep. And it would have sucked. But I had you right there. We had the jack, we had the, you had the power tools and all that. You came out and it was like, for real, like you were in a NASCAR, pit team, and you had me up and running in no time. So that was definitely a very good memory that I'll always cherish, man. That was some good stuff.
That was a great time at dinner, and being able to hang out with you and learn some of your story and why you decided to do the tally bill and get a better understanding of Brian Talley. And, I think being a mechanic all my life, and at the time I owned my own shop, and actually on a pit crew for a drag racing team. And it's just slinging wrenches and doing stuff like that. It's been in my blood since, I think my dad told me I took my first engine apart when I was 3. So he was mad when I came home from work and the lawnmower was apart, but I did it.
Man, yeah. We've been talking about that a lot too, growing up as a kid, like that's what we used to do. We used to take apart little, engines, and, I had a paper route on a bicycle. I had, a front basket, 2 rear baskets. And it's just so different now. Like nobody plays with engines anymore. It's just, phones and apps and this and that for kids. And I guess man, the times sure have changed.
Yeah. I was, scrolling through Facebook today, and one of our sponsors, Champion Cooling Systems out of Lake Elsinore, California. I think it was Mike Harding that posted this picture of some old bicycles. Mm-hmm. And, it was the old banana seat and, ape hanger bars and stuff. And I remember my dad built me a BMX because I wanted a Roger DeCoster BMX bike when I was little. And they were kind of high dollar. So Dad built one for me, bought the parts and painted it up and built one. And I thought I was the king of the neighborhood. And back then, the curfew was the street light.
Oh, yeah.
Mom would say, just come home before dark. That street light comes on. You better be walking through that door.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but if you got in trouble and you're with the neighbor's dad whooped you and then drug you home and then told your mom and dad, and then you got it again, and then you were doing dishes for a month and you were grounded and you didn't get to ride your Roger DeCoster BMX bike. Yeah, things are different these days, I tell you that.
Boy, oh boy, they sure are. Yes, I definitely miss those days, but now we're gray, and I guess now we're old. And
right. Gosh, dang.
We got nothing left but some memories and stories to tell, and just hope that we'll begin to snap out of this spell we're in right now, because it seems like we're living in some very dark times in our country and even for the world. So, so I know what you're doing over there at your Outlaw Desert Racing, I'm sure is just healing and saving so many lives.
Yeah, it's fun. It's been quite the journey since October. I think it was officially October of 17 when the guys came up to me and asked if I would take it over. I was actually a sponsor when I had my diesel shop, and I would open the doors to racers that would come into town, and if they needed a lift or air tools or diagnostic tools or any specialty stuff, rather than working on their car in the desert, before a race. I mean, during the race, you don't really have a choice. You're getting dirty and it's hot and it's miserable and whatnot. But I had the facility, so we would have events, open it up for meetings for the Outlaw Desert Racing crew and volunteers, and then some of the guys that originally founded it, over 20 years ago, came up to me and said, "Hey, would you like to be president?" And I told Drew. Matter of fact, Drew Garcia is our vice president right now, and still part of the organization. So I said, if you want me to take it over, this is what I would like to do, and this is why. One of the main reasons was, not only being a veteran myself and having some issues, but my oldest boy, who lives in Denver, Steven, was blown up in Afghanistan in Helmand province. And he's a Marine vet. And thank God he met a girl, Morgan. She is the best thing that's ever happened to that boy, and pulled him out of some dark places. And so he, within the last few years, she got him out of some dark places, and he wasn't doing too good. We have a standing joke between the two of us when we go to the VA to go to mental health. He goes, "Dad, I'm going to see the wizard." And so I said, okay, as long as you're letting me know and you're recognizing that you have and you need help, which is a good thing versus doing something stupid. So, I mean, we decided to do it this way, and it took a while to get the nonprofit status from the IRS. It took over a year. A lot of paperwork, and we were fortunate enough that we had an attorney from another nonprofit that happened to be right next door to my shop. They helped us out, and the owner or the founder of that organization, Forward Flag, they're based out of Tennessee, and then they have an office in Albuquerque. He called up that attorney at the Albuquerque location and says, "Help him, don't charge him. We're going to help him get started." So very blessed with that. Got all that going, and we put on a few races, and to raise some money. Land's become very difficult to get a hold of, especially at the desert race, because we want to put 30 to 50 mile loops. It's hard to find 30 to 50 miles with one landowner, and we did. So, but then COVID hit and kind of slowed everything down and made us really change gears and direction on how we get out with the public. So far, it's been, even with COVID, we didn't stop. I'm not going to stop. No shelter in place. No, put your mask on. I'm going to go out and play in the dirt. I'm going to help somebody.
Yeah, you're going to go outside. Yeah, you're going to go outside and you're going to save lives. So I know what you do is great, and it's it's honorable. This 501c3 that you run to bring adrenaline therapy to veterans and first responders that need to get out. They need a break. They need to decompress somewhere, and know that where they're going to go is going to be therapeutic, and they're going to have a sense of camaraderie. But before we get too much further about the amazing things that you do with Outlaw Desert Racing, I want to talk to you a little bit about your military service. Now, you were in the Air Force, correct?
Yeah. Chair Force, Air Force, we all like, you're a cran eater. He's my son, cran eater. I think he likes orange. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, we all played for the same team. It was all for the same goal, just different aspects. So
maybe need highlighters. Yeah.
We all played for the same team, had the same goal, just different aspects of the service. I scored in the top 3% in the nation for mechanical, so I got to pick what I wanted to work on.
You were one of those guys. You were one of those smart guys.
Well, yeah. I tell you, well, I'll keep going on this story, but smart in one aspect and I'm an idiot in another. I think we all have that portion, but I did look at different branches of the military. Mm-hmm. I chose the Air Force because I wanted to concentrate on aviation and get my ultimate goal was to get my AMP so I can work on aviation in the civilian world. Graduated college or high school and got a scholarship to AMP school in Pocatello, Idaho. Thought I was in love, didn't go to school like an idiot. So I was like, well, looks like you're joining the military, because it took them 30 years to do student loan paybacks. So I wasn't going to wait that long. So I joined the Air Force, went to basic, right out of tech school. I was the only honor graduate in my class. And South Korea, here you come, baby, short tour, Osan. And I had a really good time at Osan. I wish I would have done a lot of things different. Is more touring the country, seeing different sites. But I did a lot of volunteer work with the pararescue to learn that side of it. Some of their tactics, a lot of first aid, which has come in very handy even after my military career. There's times that I've had to patch people back up to get them out of the woods when we're hunting or fishing or camping, and something happened, and I was able to fall back on my training from the pararescue guys. So I'm very grateful for that. And a lot of other stuff that we did. Volunteered to work with the Navy. The Navy was using our facility for land ops. They were there for 2 or 3 weeks, and I got to do a lot of flying with them. And do a lot of training with them. My cousin was over there. He's a year older than I am, and he was in the Army, Aero Scout Observer. And then a guy that I grew up with since 3rd grade was my cousin's crew chief, of all things.
Small world.
So I didn't take a short tour, or I didn't take a mid-tour, take leave. I took a week of leave and went to Camp Page and hung out with my cousin Chad and my buddy Jason. So we did some touring around there because my cousin got to know some of the Korean nationals, and we went to some places. We were the only non-Koreans in the area, and it was pretty cool because we got to eat some pretty good food and whatnot. So
yeah, I enjoyed Korea. I was there myself.
So I spent a lot of time in phase dock, and it's one of the things that I requested, because I wanted to learn the airframe inside and out, top to bottom. Every 500 hours, the 60 got torn down and inspected, and, items replaced as needed. I'm very OCD with my mechanics, my mechanical stuff that I do, and make sure that everything's just, not only was it pounded in tech school for aviation, it's not like you can just pull over and park on the side of the road, with an airplane or a helicopter. So,
right.
You got lives at risk. So I became even more OCD, I guess. And then went to the flight line, was involved in a real world rescue over there, and earned my green feet. So, the people in the rescue commitment, it's a very small community, the rescue community. We only had 100 people in our entire squadron. That was from the commander, all the admin staff, pilots, crew chiefs, flight engineers, weapons guys. That was the whole 9 yards. and we had the entire, South Korea peninsula to do rescues on. So
Can you tell us a little bit about that rescue?
it was 2 U.S. aircraft. They were doing downward spiral maneuvers training, and the wingtip of one hit the canopy of another, and they both went into the Black Sea. We were able to retrieve one, parts and pieces of another. I think I wasn't on the bird for the rescue, so I was doing everything from the hangar and communicating with those guys. And, when they came in for fuel, we'd refuel. We had, if every 10 hours of flight time or 14 days of static sitting, the aircraft needs an inspection. So we had to get another aircraft ready because my aircraft was coming up on that 10 hours of flight time. So we swapped them out, and I think it was 3 days straight that we were, going at it, trying to find these guys. And then we found what we were able to find and brought them home. So, and then, a few civilian rescues. We did a lot of stuff like that with, Koreans out hiking or getting lost in the woods and stuff like that. Just the same stuff that we did here in the States when I got stationed, stationed in the States there at Kirtland Air Force Base in Albuquerque.
When that plane crashed, you were called out to be on that active search and rescue team?
Yeah, we have. I was on call that weekend. At the time, I was powerlifting, and I spent just a metric ton of time in the gym. I wasn't drinking. I was eating right, and just trying to focus on me and my training in the military and learning more and more, everything I could about the helicopter. I wanted to get as much stuff signed off in my training records as possible while I was in Korea. So we have a 30-minute response time. So when your beeper goes off, we had 30 minutes. So you didn't want to get too far from the hangar because that 30-minute response time was including the bird leaving the ground. So, we hung out pretty close to the hangar, to the alert hangar, got it pulled out, got everybody stuffed in it. They started turning rotors, sent them on their way. And it was about 3 days, 2.5, 3 days straight that we were turning and burning.
Now, you were a combat rescue swimmer, correct?
No, I was crew chief. So I did all the maintenance and handled the airframe and everything to make sure that my aircraft was mission capable. Assigned work to other like the sheet metal shop or the welding shop or comm nav, guidance and control, engine shop. Just managed all the different shops on the maintenance of my bird. So I am a swimmer. I like to swim. Been as they called it back in the day, a water baby. We were always at the lake. Had a pond on the ranch that I grew up on in Idaho, and
I think what it is, I've been doing so many of these podcasts that I'm getting things crossed up. I have you down as a combat rescue crew chief. So I had it all right except for the swimmer part. So yeah, that's why I was just trying to figure out because it happened over the sea. So I'm thinking, oh wait, they call these guys out so he can go maybe in the water, search and rescue, all that stuff. But still, crew chief. And so whatever happened to that? I mean, were they in the Air Force or were they Marines? Or?
They're Air Force. It was an F-15 and an F-16. They were doing downward spirals, dogfight training, and the one wing clipped the canopy of the other and put them both into the ocean. So,
and one ended up surviving, and the other one,
the other one didn't make it. So, it's very unfortunate.
Training accidents are horrible, man.
Yeah. But I was there from 93 to 94 and closed down the 38th Rescue. Kadena Air Force Base was taken. The 33rd was taken over the rescue commitment. So we shut our stuff down, and Kadena came over and started doing rotations. I should have volunteered to lateral over to Kadena. I think that would have been just top off my Asia tour. Kirtland gave me a bad taste in my mouth. It's probably the demise of my career.
Yeah.
Way too many chiefs, not enough Indians, very political. Kirtland is very political. It's a training base. It's where all the pararescue guys go to train for their PJ school. Flight engineers are there for, H-60, all the helicopter stuff and pilots and it's a training base, and it's way too political. I mean, when I was in Korea, when I was an assistant crew chief, I'd look at my crew chief and say, hey, my stuff's done. Can I go fly? They just asked me if I wanted to go. And he's like, see you later. That was it. Put myself on the manifest, call it into flight ops, get my suit on, get my helmet on, and go play. And be on all day long, and then come home and they'd drop me off and I'd run to the hangar and marshal them in and put my bird to bed.
I mean, that's a lot of adrenaline, right? All the flying and being the crew chief and.
Oh yeah. We went TDY to Jeju Island, which is like it's Korea's version of Hawaii. Mm-hmm. So we were doing some training with the Korean Navy there in Jeju Island, and we're coming back and we're flying over the ocean. I got my gunner's belt on, I got my helmet on, got my comms, so I decided I'm just going to kick back and take a nap. I mean, what else are you going to do? You're flying over the water. And I hear over the intercom, and if Captain Mitch Graves today, if I ever see you, I'm going to, he was the pilot at the time. Great dude. But I'm getting ready to go to, I'm just falling asleep, and I hear over the intercom, is everybody all right back there? And I'm like, I'm falling asleep. If they can't see that I'm sleeping, then whatever. Next thing I know, I'm in the air. I'm up against the H-bar on the roof of this helicopter, in the ceiling of this helicopter, and start screaming like a little girl because I thought we were going down. And everybody's laughing because they saw me getting ready to take a nap and decided to pull a pretty wicked negative G. Yeah. And anything that's not tied down is floating.
Oh yeah.
It's like space. So the PJ, he's doing some barrel rolls, as we're cresting over and everything starts lifting up, and I'm up against the roof of the ceiling of this 60, and everybody's giggling, and I can hear Graves over the intercom. And I said, listen, you choice words. I said, I'm going to kick your ass when we get down on the ground.
I've been in plenty of helicopter rides, 53s, 46s, Hueys, and we've had some good flights up there, and the pilots definitely know how to have a good time, especially when you got captains and young majors up there flying around, and got good crew chiefs, and a lot of that stuff did happen in Korea and Okinawa and overseas. You got a little bit more leeway on what you can do when falls.
Yeah, I actually miss working on the 53. Everybody says, oh, it's just huge, it's cumbersome, it's bulky, it doesn't maneuver fast. Lies.
No, that 53 Echo. Let's see, I was on they had the Delta and then the Echo. I was on the Echo.
Well, they got the Foxtrot out now. It's even more powerful.
Crazy.
And that's the thing is I wish the Air Force would have had a 3-engine 53 like the Marines did. Mm-hmm. I think it was it was a maintenance nightmare to begin with, but it was fun. It was very agile for the size of helicopter that it was. And I'm not a fan of that tilt rotor deal at all.
Very powerful machine. We did a lot of HSTs underneath them, on like Hilo support teams, with cargo, drops and stuff like that. And then, I was on so many different air coffin rides too, those 46s. That's what they call them, the air coffins, flying air coffins. Yeah, man, that was some good time, man. That was some good time back in the day. Back in the day, man, we're old.
Right. So then I get stationed at Kirtland in Albuquerque, and I'm in the 512th light lift, working Hueys and 60s. I was like, okay, I want to go back into phase dock so I could work on Hueys because it was another airframe that I could get under my belt and get training on. So when I went civilian, I had more airframes that I could have on my training records. Did that for a while, worked on 53s for a while, got a lot of stuff signed off, and then I became a maintenance instructor on Hueys and went over to the LSS, the training squadron, and instructor on Hueys, then became assistant instructor on 60s. And then hydraulic fluid allergy, man. My hands would crack and bleed. So they said, well, we're going to cross train you. So I went into mobile air traffic control, doing drug interdiction stuff down in South America is what I would have been doing. And, during peacetime, and then during wartime, obviously different scenario. During that, I was diagnosed with sleep apnea, severe obstructive sleep apnea. They said I had sleep apnea as bad as a 70-year-old man. And I would quit breathing or have a respiratory disturbance index was just through the wall, like 68 to 80 times an hour, I would quit breathing. So they did 2 surgeries on me when I was active duty. They did a turbinectomy, which is go in and rotor-root your nose and stuff like that. But then they did a UP3, which the uvula, little punching bag you got back of your throat. Well, they decided to take a pair of wire cutters and cut that off. And then some of my soft palate and my tonsils all at once. And in reality, it made me worse. It made my sleep apnea worse. So
what caused it?
The sleep apnea? I don't know. The one doctor says, "Oh, your tongue's too fat." Like, how do you respond to that?
Well, it's a good thing they didn't put the pliers on that sucker and pull, huh?
Right. So they wanted to actually. He goes, "Well, your RDI after the 2 surgeries." So that we back up for a second. So they did the sleep study, the initial sleep study determined, yeah, you're screwed up. Then they did a second sleep study with a CPAP machine to get my RDI numbers with forced air, which RDI dropped, and it was good. Then they did the 2 surgeries, and then they did a sleep study with no CPAP to see if I could be without the CPAP. Excuse me. And then they did the 4th sleep study with CPAP. So before surgery on CPAP, numbers were a lot lower than post-surgery on CPAP. So they made me worse.
So you're one of those guys that goes to bed looking like Maverick from Top Gun?
Every night, brother. I even have a new mask now that goes over my mouth and my nose. And I should have got that mask 22 years ago. That's the best thing. I should have done it a long time ago.
Man, I couldn't sleep with something on my face.
You get used to it. You get used to it. And I battled it. I'm not going to lie to you. I battled that machine. I would take it off at night, and then I'd wake up, and I had zero energy, no motivation. Then I started using the machine. I'm like, I got to use this stupid machine.
Yeah, your body wasn't resting. You were up and all that. Man, let's talk a little bit about your nonprofit, man. Let's talk a little bit about Outlaw Desert Racing and all the work that you do in the veteran community and in the first responder community, man. I mean, tell me about the adrenaline therapy.
Well, what we decided. We didn't coin the term. I didn't come up with that hashtag or that phrase. When we were looking around and we are first starting to decide whether we're going to do the nonprofit deal because do we really want to go down that road or just keep it as a club or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
But I saw a few organizations using it, 5 years ago. But it was like very randomly used.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, if we use it all the time, because I don't care, I don't care if you're a first responder, whether it be law enforcement, EMT, firefighter, or in the military, there's a level of adrenaline, whether you admit it or not, is there. You wouldn't have joined the military or became a first responder because I just wanted something to do,
You're looking for action. You're like,
you're looking for action. You're wanting to help others. You're wanting to protect others. So when you get out, we're in the military. You're mission driven. Everything's mission driven. There's a lot of hurry and wait. Hurry up and then wait in line, or hurry up and wait for this, or there's a lot of hurry and wait. But on the most part of it, it's mission driven, goal oriented, mission oriented. This is what we have to do. What do we have to do to get that objective completed? You get out of the military and you're in the civilian life doing this number, twiddling your thumbs, listening to Dr. Phil or whatever on TV, or listening to somebody at work complaining because they stubbed their big toe and the life is going to end because they don't know what to do. It's like, shut up, pull your pants up and do your job. So it just becomes frustrating, not fitting into a team anymore, having that camaraderie of your brothers and sisters in arms, or in the military, or your first responder, or whatever. You're with them all the time. You train with them all the time, and you become such a cohesive team that if, pardon my French, shit hit the fan, then you've got each other's back. I don't have to worry about what Brian Talley's doing. He doesn't have to worry about what Chris Brahs is doing. Is all I know is I got Brian's back and he's got mine. So when you get out, it's like going from 200 mile an hour to pulling the parachutes and hitting the brick wall and twiddling your thumbs. And then that's when your mental status just starts going spiraling out of control. And, they want to put you on all sorts of antidepressants and other stuff. And I think, me personally, I threw them away because I became a zombie, sitting on the couch drooling, because I didn't want to do nothing. My motivation level went completely out the window back in early 05 when I got diagnosed. And I didn't want to do nothing. Just sat. I went to work. I would come home and sit on the couch, and that was it. Just a lonely life. And so I got to figure something out. So started hanging out with like-minded friends and doing things, and then Outlaw Desert Racing came about, and we're like, well, let's do this. Let's create this adrenaline therapy program. Whether you're active or veteran, military or first responder, we're going to help. So
tell me what it's like. Tell me what it's like. You guys meet on Saturday and everybody shows up, and walk me through a day.
So, we tell everybody, so for instance, Razorville in Albuquerque, it's a facility that one of our supporters and board members owns, and has turned it into an off-road facility, which is great because it creates an environment that's very welcoming. So we have meet the crew. There's a lot of cars there, 10 to 12 cars at times or more, desert vehicles. And so we'll introduce the veteran to the rest of the crew. We'll go around, look at the vehicles. Then we do a safety brief. We do have helmets on. I've got filtered air that goes into our helmets so we don't have to eat dirt all the time.
That's good.
Just recently got those, and I wished I would have had them a long time ago. But do a safety brief and what happens if we roll. Grab the seatbelt, don't make any movements, don't try to exit the vehicle until all movement stopped. Blah blah blah. Here's fire extinguishers. Here's first aid kits, and then we go out. So we start out slow. and we've got intercom, so I can be talking to the individuals in the car. My car is a 4-seater, so we can have, myself and 3 other people.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're comfortable, we go faster. When they start becoming uncomfortable, we back it off. And
so are the veterans allowed to drive, or do you guys have specific drivers to drive them in the vehicles?
We have specific drivers because the majority of the veterans and first responders that we've taken out have never been in this caliber of a vehicle before. Mm-hmm. So for insurance purposes, we do the driving until we can get sponsored and have some more vehicles, like,
mm-hmm.
From Can-Am or wherever, that we can have. And our goal is to buy some property and have like an OHV park, an off-road park, mm-hmm. and have trails and stuff so we can have cars there and put the veterans and first responders in and let them operate the vehicle. Mm-hmm. That's one of our goals.
What's the feedback been from veterans and first responders that go through your program and they get some of that adrenaline therapy? Is this something that they can do over and over again, or is this like a one-time thing? How what's the experience like for these guys?
You ever heard the term Cheshire Cat grin? You take a Cheshire Cat grin, so it's like an ear-to-ear grin.
Oh, nice.
So we've had a few veterans come and they're apprehensive. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, what's this all about? What am I going to do? And that's totally understandable. Mm-hmm. And some of them are shy because they're meeting new people, and sometimes for people it's difficult to just go out and meet new people. Mm-hmm. So, but the majority of my staff is our veterans. We mm-hmm. do have a few civilians on staff, but their entire family has been in the military, long history of military and first responders. So we're not doctors. We don't proclaim to be a doctor. Mm-hmm. We're not shrinks. We talk to them like everyday people. And a lot of times it's like we talk to one another when we were in the military, because then it brings back that familiarity, and you can see the tension level just drop. They go from very apprehensive to kind of military speak, and it's like you can turn the switch and see the change. Mm-hmm. And then we go riding, and we'll go pretty hard and heavy for 5 or 10 miles, and we'll pull over and we'll have some water or a snack. We'll all gather around and BS. Then we kind of debrief a little bit, like, how were you comfortable? You want to go faster? Because they're also calling out obstacles, mm-hmm. like, rock on the left, or we got a left-hand corner coming up, because I got GPS. They're staring at a Lowrance screen. They can see out the there's no windshield, but they can see through the roll cage, and they can also see the course that we're going to do on the GPS. So they're like the navigator.
So they're acting as, in a team, and they're engaging with the driver. So they're all, participating in this.
Brings back that team concept and the camaraderie, and it's almost instant. We've had several people after going through the program just have that ear-to-ear grin, literally. MMA fighter could not kick the grin off of their face. And, we've assisted over 160 military and first responders, veterans and first responders in the last 4.5 years.
Outstanding. Now, so how often do you do this, and how can people register to come out and join you for a day of this racing?
We go out on the weekends. A lot of people will just reach out through our website, outlawdesertracing.com, or even on Facebook, Outlaw Desert Racing. Send us a message. We've had a lot of parents reach out and say, hey, my son or my daughter is kind of having some problems. Can you reach out to them? I'll just reach out to them and say, hey, I'm a veteran. This is what we do. Would you like to come participate? I'll even come get you. We provide, snacks and waters and all the safety gear. And we go out, and like I said, they're apprehensive, and then all of a sudden they're like, "This is the funnest thing I've done in a long time." You know, they're getting the adrenaline, but it's not the adrenaline of fight or flight.
Right.
It's like, you know, the adrenaline junkies that like roller coasters or base jumping off of a perfectly good bridge, or, you know, parachute, you know, free falling out of an aircraft.
Yeah, you're giving them a healthy dose of life. You're giving them that life that they have stopped living because of the post-traumatic stress and perhaps some really bad memories that are keeping them in a bad place, keeping them down. They're at home. They're self-isolating. They're doing everything. They're just struggling to get through the day. And then all of a sudden they have a program like yours. They can go out and they can participate. They can act like a team again. They got the camaraderie. They show up and they're just depressed. And then they leave, like you said, smiling from ear to ear, like you have literally gone into this person's body and have transformed them into being this sad person, all the way up to them leaving with a little bit of purpose again. And perhaps that little bit of motivation that when they start that next week, they're going to get up and they're going to go on walks and they're going to start living their life again. They're going to start taking back all the things, all the joy and everything that's been robbed of them for perhaps years.
Yep. And we don't limit it to one time. You know, we've got some people that want to come out all the time now. And I'm like, sure, come on, let's go. So right before COVID, March, right. I mean, like I got home and 2 weeks later, a week later, COVID's like, oh, we're all going to die, you know? So we were at the Mint 400 in Las Vegas, and we took a group of first responders from Albuquerque. There was a few of them from Albuquerque, and a couple of them came down from Denver area. And so these guys have been friends for a long time. And so we're like, you guys want to go? And they're like, yes. They got done with the Mint 400 and created their own race team and have been racing desert racing ever since. It created that much of a, you know, Chad, he had a side-by-side and he always kind of, you know, he's a good driver to begin with. But after the Mint 400, those guys were like, let's do it. So they pulled their money. They tore Chad's car completely apart and rebuilt it from the chassis up, and have been coming down to El Paso to do some races, and they do pretty good, you know.
So how many drivers drive for you?
We support Pratt Racing, PRAT Racing. That's the first responder group out of Albuquerque and Denver. And then we help out McNeil Racing in Arizona out of Phoenix. They've got a spec trophy truck. It's a 6100 truck. And it's a geyser truck too. It's a nice truck. So we'll help them out. And they've actually put veterans in their truck. They have a class 6 truck. I can't remember what specific class it is, but it's a 3-seater. So you have the driver and the navigator in their original positions, and then the truck is an extended cab. So in between the driver and then the navigator in the extended cab section is a third seat for a rider, passenger. And so we were in Parker, Arizona, a few years ago, and put a veteran in the passenger seat for a ride during a national race. And that, you know, we that's one of the things that we do also is take veterans and first responders to a national race, because we help these other teams and we provide pit support. So we're in the pits working on the car. So now they're back to the team oriented thing, task oriented, and the pit is very fast paced, because if you're sitting in the pit, you're not moving. If you're not moving, you're wasting time. You're losing time. It's all about time. Desert racing is about time. It's not racing like NASCAR, or, you know, where you're racing against 10 or 50 other cars on the track at the same time. There's 50, you know, vehicles on the track, but there's 30 seconds to a minute between each one of them leaving the start line. So it doesn't create that cluster. So you're racing against the clock. So, we introduce them to the pit crew, and a lot of times they're like, hey, I want to keep going. I want to do more of this. And then we find a team that's willing to put them in the vehicle for a navigator position or just a rider.
So obviously the majority of your racing is done in the Southwest, hence the word desert and out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So say if you're a veteran or a first responder from, say, Philadelphia, and you're watching this podcast, you're like, you know what, I'm a veteran and, I'm going through some hard times, or I'm a first responder, and I would really like to, to be a guest and go through a day or two of racing out with Chris and his team. But I can't get to Phoenix, or I can't get to Albuquerque or whatever it is. Like, do you fly them in?
We would love to be able to do that. Once that's one of our goals.
Mm-hmm.
Right now we're working with other organizations, like, for instance, Channel 12, one of the news stations in Albuquerque did a story on us. Mm-hmm. And that night we were getting emails from Houston up north in the Midwest, all the way to the East, Virginia, South Carolina, North Carolina. And we have a network of race teams or organizations or just riding groups. Mm-hmm. Like I called David Brunton from CT Raceworks. Hey, I just got a phone call from a young lady that's in your area that wants to come out and do the therapy program with us, but neither one of us can afford to buy the plane ticket. Can you take her out for a ride? And he's like, got it handled. He's a Marine vet. Mm-hmm. So we have a good network. We want to team up with other organizations all over the U.S. So when somebody from North Carolina gets a call, hey, I'm in El Paso, Texas, I want to go through your deal. Well, they call me and said, hey, well, this guy's right here in El Paso. He can help you. Mm-hmm. Or if I get somebody from North Carolina calling, I can reach out to that organization back east and get them the help as fast as we can until we can get a plane ticket and accommodations to fly that individual out for our program.
Right.
So our goal is to team up with, and I see it all too often, is either nonprofits or even for-profit businesses. They're in competition with one another, especially some of the nonprofits. Stop being in competition with one another, because it's all fun and games, like you're making fun of other branches of the military, but we all play for the same team. We're all trying to help a veteran or first responder get out of a dark area of their life. So get off your high horse and join forces and become a national. We don't have to become all one organization, but create a network where we're helping one another out. Increase your footprint and your reach to help other people, and we'll be a lot more successful. You don't have to share your money that you're getting on your donations. We're not asking for any of your money. We're asking to team up for your help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree with you. There's so many 501c3s out there. A lot are in it for the right reasons. And then a lot, it's just like you just see them taking in money, but you don't really see a lot going out to actually help the mission that people are donating for. And you're exactly right. The mission is to save lives here. So why is anybody really competing if you're a nonprofit and you're doing this to save lives? You're doing this to, improve the life of the veteran or the first responder that is showing up, to give them everything that they need to leave a better person than they were when they showed up. Mm-hmm. And so to me, it seems as if you're right. There is so much competition out there. And if all these organizations just work together just a little bit it could be transportation, like you said, there's probably a lot of veteran organizations out there that have some planes that fly across the country that sometimes may be empty. Well, you can take veterans from the East Coast to the West Coast, and from the West Coast to the East Coast. Yep. You've got fishing trips, in the States, where you have oceans that have, deep sea fishing. Well, there may be a veteran from, from Illinois that wants to go deep sea fishing, and now they can come down to Galveston or Houston or to San Diego or to Miami or Alaska, whatever it may be. There's just so many organizations, and there's so many people willing to help. So I guess that is good, but I know what you mean about the competition and, and all that stuff. And at times it's a turnoff. It really is.
Yeah. We've created a really good relationship with an organization out of Flagstaff, Arizona called Change by Nature Outdoors. Mm-hmm. And Justin Youngman runs that organization, and he's a veteran. He takes guys and gals out that have never been hunting before. He'll take them out hunting, fishing, camping, gold panning, boating, inner tubing on the lake, anything outdoors, outdoors. And I've got a good friend that I grew up with that owns a fishing company and makes products and sells in Cabela's and just, he's killing it. I'm very proud of him. Well, I saw him when I was in Idaho last month, and we hadn't seen each other in almost 20 years. Mm-hmm. And I connected Change by Nature Outdoors with my buddy's business, and he's going to help them get fishing equipment to be able to take veterans out fishing, teach them how to fly fish.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, there's so much that veterans can do, and do it with like-minded people, and to share new experiences and to make new memories and to heal. That's what the mission is here, is to heal, have fun, and just create those everlasting memories. But Chris, I would like to thank you for joining us today on this program. We are up against time here. Yeah. And,
we're having fun.
Yeah, man, I just wanted to, share with the world a little bit about what you do in, playing a role in saving lives and really helping, improve the lives of veterans and first responders across our country. So the work you do is admirable. And, I sincerely appreciate you joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me on, Brian. It's been an honor to have met you several years ago and become a friend, not just an acquaintance. So
absolutely.
I really appreciate you having us on the show. And if there's anything that we can do, just, you got my number, my email, the whole 9 yards.
You're the man. Yeah. Guys, Outlaw Desert Racing. These guys are awesome. They're fun, and they are going to give you a ride of your life and experience that adrenaline therapy, something that we can all use from time to time. So anyways, for Tuesdays with Tally, this is Brian Tally. Good night.